Hello, I'm Catherine McGuire. Welcome to the Soul Alchemist podcast. If you're at a point where from the outside life looks good, and in many ways maybe it is, but inside you're wondering, why am I here? What's my purpose? I feel like I was meant for more than this. Then the good news is you are in exactly the right place. The Soul Alchemist podcast is a weekly invitation to get below the noise of your mind so that you can listen to the voice of your soul and get the clarity and practical tools you need to live your most purposeful, fulfilling, and joyous life. Every week, I draw on the ancient wisdom of the alchemists, shamanism, psychology, and Mother Nature herself to guide you to remember who you truly are so that you can step fully into your goals. Welcome along. Welcome along. I'm Catherine McGuire. It is so lovely to have you here. Okay, this week I want to get you to think about something which is, when did the wisdom become the wound? And the reason that is on my mind is because I was in Ireland a few weeks ago. And one of the reasons I went to Ireland was to see my dad. My dad is in his 80s and he hasn't been well. And my dad was a farmer. He's a tall, kind of broad man, was, very outgoing in his personality and his nature, very gregarious. He worked outdoors, he was in nature every day and really lived a very full, big life, I would say. And for the last few years, he hasn't been great, but it's got to the stage where he needs some help, he needs some support. But because he was a very independent, outgoing, gregarious person, he doesn't want help. And we're at a point where we're trying to navigate how to get him the help that he needs in the way that he will accept the help. And as part of that, myself and my siblings, we're six, so I have five siblings, need to have a conversation about, how we go forward, the different things that each of us can do, need to do. And it it was challenging because when we were growing up, my mother's mantra to us was, don't fight among yourselves. And she had a very good reason for that mantra because my dad and his siblings, there was five of them, there was a point in their relationship where they all fell out. Excuse me. Something happened and they all fell out, and there was a lot of fighting and just a lot of hurt and a lot of fallout from that we witnessed and that we were part of because the fallout affected everyone. And so my mom's mantra was always, don't fight among yourselves, because she didn't want us ending up in the same place that my dad and his siblings ended up in. And, that was fair, that was valid. But has happened as a result of that even though we're all adults out in the world, adulting, living adult lives, doing our thing, running businesses or having jobs or relationships or families or whatever that is, when the six of us come together, we are now confrontation averse, which means that we don't fight among ourselves, but we also don't, we avoid the difficult conversations because we don't want to have a fight. So we are stuck, even though we range like from our, late 30s to mid 50s, we are stuck psychologically in a pattern that my mom created when we were children, even though we don't really do that pattern anywhere else in our lives. And that pattern isn't working because we need to have difficult conversations around my dad. So the wisdom, my mum's wisdom of don't fight among yourselves, which was amazing wisdom and served us really well as children, has now become a wounding because it's keeping us stuck in an old pattern, in a dynamic that, is not allowing us to grow as adults within that sibling dynamic, and is not allowing us to kind of really do what we need to do and advocate for our dad collectively. And as I was thinking about this, I thought, I think we probably all have one of those situations in our life where the wisdom became the wound, where something that we took on as wisdom at a certain point in our life and was valid, was really, really valid, has actually become a wounding and is now keeping us stuck, keeping us frozen in time, stopping us from growing. So my offering to you today is to have a think about that. Where do you have a piece of wisdom that you embodied, you took on, and it's a wounding now. And sometimes that wisdom becomes an identity. So like I was definitely very proud of the fact I had a huge, I had huge ego pride around the fact that as six siblings we don't fight, until I had to go home a couple of weeks ago and go, wow, we really need to have some difficult conversations here, and we're doing our best to avoid them because we're afraid of upsetting one another. So, so you may have an ego identity around that wisdom. So it's a good opportunity. I always believe that, it's spring here and, we're about to step into summer, and a bit like you spring clean your house and open the windows and let the fresh air in after winter and all that thing. It's good to, spring clean your life and spring clean your relationships and see, okay, what needs a new, a fresh impulse of energy. And so that's my offering. What is the wisdom that you need to kind of open the shutters on, open the windows on, let some fresh air blow through and clear it out, spring clean it. Because it's now wounding. And you'll know if it's become a wounding because it's keeping you small, it's keeping you stuck, it's stopping you from evolving. It's maybe keeping you stuck, like in the case with my siblings, it's keeping us, into six kids under 10, really, when we come to sit down to have that conversation, as opposed to, six adults, who are out in the world living their lives. So it's keeping you stuck. It's keeping you, there's something stagnating there. There's something limiting or calcified. All right. It's not allowing you to move forward, and maybe you're coming up against a wall with it. Maybe you're having fights, or you're having arguments with someone, or you're having disagreements based on that old wisdom, but you've outgrown it. You've actually outgrown it, but you've pinned your mask to the collar of this is what I believe in. And we pick that up. We pick that up from a parent. We pick it up from a significant adult or a teacher or someone we respect. But we can also pick it up from, the world around us. You can pick up that wisdom, that belief from a book. So like there was a book about, probably 20 plus years ago. It popped into my mind this morning when I was thinking of the podcast. And it was written by a woman called Susan Jeffers. It was hugely popular, kind of in the self help world about 20 plus years ago. And the title of the book was Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And the premise was, as it says in the book, if you're afraid of doing something, if you're at a threshold, if you're at point to change, if you need to change your life, whatever it is, yes, it's going to be difficult, but just feel the fear and do it anyway. And the thing about that is, that may sound like some good advice to some of you, but that's good advice if the person it's directed at is actually motivated by fear. So if fear is a motivator for you, you will be able to use the energy of that fear to take a step, and your nervous system will be in accordance with that. All right. But fear, for example, is not a motivator for me. Fear actually causes me to freeze. So telling me to feel the fear and do it anyway, when my nervous system goes into freeze, if I was to take a step from that place, it's like I'm traumatizing myself in the energy of fear. Fear won't motivate me. And the chances are I probably won't even be able to take the step. And then I'll be able, what I will do is though give myself like GBH in the ear hole and beat myself up that I wasn't able to take the step. All you have to do, Catherine, is feel the fear and do it anyway. But my system's not wired like that. But 20 odd years ago when that book came out, I probably didn't know that about my nervous system. I just knew this book wasn't for me. Right now, I understand why. But for many of my friends, it was great advice. They loved it, and they read it and they implemented it. But if I'd have done that, it wouldn't have worked for me. So that's not a piece of advice I picked up. But for somebody, for someone out there, maybe you did. Maybe there was something you read. Maybe there was something that seemed like good advice, something that was a popular thought, or maybe something your friends were doing or your family were doing. It's like, well, I should do that too. I'll do that too. That's a wise thing. That's wisdom. Okay, that's working for them. But maybe it's not for you. Maybe it's not for you, and it's time to put it down. It's time to put it down because that wisdom is wounding you. So, whatever that thing is, that piece of wisdom that's become the wound, I invite you to meet it, meet with it. So, You can sit, you can make a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, sit down with it and have a chat. You can meet it in your meditation. If you like journaling, you can meet it in your journal pages. You can write it a letter. You can go out for a walk in nature and just imagine it's walking beside you and having a chat with it. But thank it for whatever it was it gave you. So as kids, my mom's don't fight among yourselves. Then we had a really great childhood, the six of us, like we'd squabbles, but we didn't have big fights. So, and it taught us to see the world like, you don't have to play out the pattern that played out in your dad's family. So, like, there was great wisdom in it, but I'm done with it. I'm done with it. So, I want to set it down. I want to let it go. I really want to let it go. So, the same for you. Thank it, really thank it and release it and release the identity attached to it if you have one. All right. And then the next piece of that is that nature hates a vacuum. And if you ever notice, if you clear a piece of land, if you clear soil, or even I remember when I was in Hawaii where the lava was, after um the volcano exploded, just like, the lava. Nature hates that vacuum. All right. So what nature does is she sends out pioneer plants, and they can be in the form of seeds, they can be in the form of plants that have, rhizome root system that travel really quickly, and it will colonize that land that has been cleared and start to stabilize the land. So it will stabilize it so it doesn't lose soil, because if it loses soil, it loses nutrients. And when it was amazing when I was on the volcano, on the caldera of the volcano, you're walking on this black kind of crystalline substance, and you're seeing plants spring up from it. And there's specific plants that are able to, germinate in that black rock, and their roots go down and start to break up that dried lava and then start to turn that into soil. So, like, nature is amazing. So, nature doesn't want a vacuum. So, if you let go of that wisdom and let go of the identity around the wisdom, what seed do you want to sow in its place? What do you want in place of it? So, for me, the seed I want to sow is that I can have open hearted and difficult, if necessary, conversations with my siblings. It doesn't mean I want to end up fighting or I want to be in fights, but I want to be able to have the hard conversations from a heart centered place. So we can grow so that we're not still stuck as like six kids under 10 or whatever, but also that we can help my dad in the way that he needs to be helped. All right. So if you're letting go of that wounding, that was wisdom once upon a time, but it's become a wounding. What do you want to sow in its place? What's the new wisdom? What's the new way of being you want to put in there? Okay. And then how can you start to action that? How can you start to live from that place? So for me, that's starting with smaller conversations with my siblings, maybe one at a time, and maybe starting with smaller conversations. Go, we're stuck in this pattern. I would like to move past it. Just from there, and then build on that. So for you, the same invitation applies. How can you start to action a new way of being that allows that seed that you've sown to start to split open and put its roots down into the fertile soil that is you? Okay. So that's what I want to leave you with this week. Where has the wisdom become the wound? Are you willing to release that old wisdom that you've outgrown? Are you willing to set it down and set down maybe the identity that goes with it? You know if you need to set it down because it's causing friction, or it's keeping you small, or it's keeping you stuck in the past. It's prohibiting growth. It's prohibiting expansion. And what new seeds do you want to sow in its place? And how can you start to action that in your day-to-day life? And that way you can let go of the old wisdom that has become the wounding and sow new wisdom in its place. So that's my offering to you today. Let me know. Let me know if that speaks to you. Let me know what that brought up for you today. Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. What was the wisdom that became the wound? And what new seeds are you sowing instead? And in the meantime, have a gorgeous week. Have a really gorgeous week. If this podcast episode spoke to you, please do share it with a friend. Let's spread the alchemy. That would give me so much joy. Thank you very much. And I hope you have a lush, exuberant, beautiful week filled with aliveness. Sending so, so much love from my heart to yours. And I'll see you next week for another podcast episode.